All right, folks, delistings are on the rise, sellers are giving up, and the market's crashing. Or context to this data is really, really important. And once you actually dive into it, you're going to get a real depiction of what's going on in the market. So stick with me real quick, and I want to show you what I found out. All right, so I'm sure you've seen a bunch of headlines that look like this or this or that or this right here. You might have even listened to some news outlets that sounded like this.
A new report from Realtor.com says this year had the highest rate of home delistings since the site started tracking them back in 2022. People are pulling their homes off the market instead of selling them at too low a price.
Now, in these news outlets and a lot of the reports and different real estate agents and mortgage companies that I'm seeing talk about delistings are on the increase or expired or canceled listings are on the rise. I don't think they're taking something into consideration. Now, stick with me for a few minutes, and at the end of the video, I'm going to paint a picture for you that I think is going to open the eyes to a lot of people, because I don't think very many folks are looking at the data this way. Now, a lot of this information also, like the video you just watched with me here, is based off of data they started collecting back in 2022. And we can all agree that the market now and before COVID was very different than what we saw in 2022. So I feel to get accurate information on this, I need to look pre-COVID, and I need to look post, I would say, about 2023. Now, the interesting thing is, I really thought this video was going to be much faster than it was. I've spent quite a bit of time trying to figure this out, and part of it was because I needed to call my local MLS and find out why I couldn't find the data, and come to find out our local MLS here doesn't keep the data for canceled listings for longer than 18 months. Now, what I found here is I found expired listings. So out of curiosity, I went ahead and I wanted to see what is expired in the past 10 years, month by month. And here you can see that December, every year, December has the highest number of expired listings out of all the months. So we can see December of 2015, we had 5,544 expired listings. Well, then if we jump up to 2024, December of 2024, we can see there was 7,198 expired listings. Well, then I also wanted to see, well, what's going on year by year? So here we can see that in 2015, there was a total of 36,000 and a few more expired listings. Then when you jump all the way to year to date, so year to date for 2025, we're looking at 43,252. So yes, expired listings are on the increase, but the real question I had is this because there's just more homes for sale? Oh, I don't know if I mentioned or not. These numbers is based off of Tarrant County. It got a little too complicated when I used all of the MLS. I just don't want to do that high number of math there. But I wanted to see like what's going on over the past 10 years. Like there's obviously way more homes in Tarrant County, now versus 2015. So here, take a look at this right here. You can see that 2015, there was 685,000 homes in Tarrant County. And as of 2024, there was 806,000 homes. So about 121 more homes with about a 4% margin of error, according to this website here. But the sales, my goodness, take a look at the sales. What's going on with that? So here we can look at the homes for sale in Tarrant County is going to be the red line, and the entire MLS is going to be the blue line. And as you can see, as we move through the years, Tarrant County didn't have the massive fluctuations that we saw across the entire MLS. Same thing if we go back and we look at closed sales. We can see that the closed sales, well, they are down a little bit, MLS versus all of Tarrant County. You can see back in January 2015, you can see the 24,000. And then when you scoot up to here, you can see that we've got just a little less homes for sale, but not that much. So here you can see that the number of sales versus sold, there's a lot more homes for sale, but the number of sold homes in Tarrant County has kind of stayed about the same. So roughly the same number of homes every year are selling in Tarrant County. And then it's like the data's not adding up to me, right? Like you could say, well, look at the data, but when I look at the data in different ways, it's not necessarily adding up, because when I look at the number of expired listings over the past 10 years versus the number of active listings, well, then I started questioning myself, what's the real reason all these delistings are happening, but the number of sales are still relatively about the same and the home values are still kind of going up? Like, what's happening here? It wasn't adding up for me. So then I started to look at things a little bit differently. And this is the conclusion I drew. Pre-COVID, if I took a listing and it didn't sell in, let's say, 30 to 60 days, sellers didn't really start to get stressed out too much. It really depended on the price point, but you didn't see that angst that you saw nowadays. Like now, if a home doesn't go under contract in like a week or two, the sellers are freaking out and they're like, oh my God, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And they start, it's like, well, calm down, guys. It's going to take a little time sometimes to get the property to move at a price you want it. And maybe we'll save this for another video of how I'm seeing a lot of agents focused on specific listings that they want. They're maybe not doing the best justice for their sellers. But we're coming off of a crazy market, right? So we look at pre-COVID, we look at COVID, and we look at post-COVID. And we also kind of take into consideration the fact that just society is a little bit more like now, give it to me now. Right? You click on something, it shows up at your door the next day or a day and a half later or something like that. You put a house on the market during the COVID years, you had multiple offers. You'd list a home on Thursday and Friday and Tuesday, or not Friday, Monday and Tuesday. Sometimes you put a house up on Thursday and you were looking at offers on Friday. But like you'd put a house up on Thursday, man, Monday, most properties you had multiple offers to review come Monday and Tuesday. But think about it this way. Let's say a seller contacts a real estate agent. The agent says, hey, your home's probably worth about $950,000 to $1 million. But the sellers decide to list for 1.5. And then they sit on the market for 60 days. And then they have the choice. They could do a price reduction, which there's about anywhere from 9 to 11,000 reductions every week in the MLS. Or you could take the home off the market for a little while, put it back up at a better price. Because on the average in MLS, we're looking at about 3,000 to 5,000 new listings every month. So which group would you want to be as a seller? Well, a lot of sellers pick the new listing group. So they put the house up at 1.5. It sat on the market for 60 days. They're tired of dealing with showings. They're not getting the traction they want. They don't have any offers. They say, hey, you know what? We want to take a little break. Let's take the home off the market. So that's what they do. So they take the home off the market. Then they put it back up a few weeks or 30 days or 2.5 months later, whatever it is. They put it back on the market again. Well, this time they put it at 1.4. Well, still the same thing. They're not getting much traffic. Well, now they're starting to get a little bit frustrated. So maybe they take the home off the market. And now they do some of the updates to address the feedback they've had. And then they put the house back up for 1.3. They let it sit for, let's say, 75 days. Well, the home still hasn't sold. Now, let me paint also part of this picture is these folks bought this home back in 2015 for $450,000. And they feel like they don't want to give the house away, even though the comps originally pointed a value about $950,000 to $1 million. Well, they feel like the agent's not doing a good job now, and they're feeling extra frustrated, right? Now, they've taken the home off the market a few times and put it back on. They're not getting the offers and the traction they want. So they relist with another agent. Well, when they relist with this new agent, the home comes off the market and goes back on, and now they go up for 1.2. Or let's say they go up for 1.15. And the home still doesn't sell. They don't get the traction they want. Well, now they're moving into the holidays or something. And they're like, you know what? We're going to take the house off the market. We don't want to sell anymore. We're sick of this. You know what? The market sucks. Values are dropping. We're not going to sell. Zillow said our home's worth $1.4 million. It's like, okay, great. Well, after a few months living in the home, they realize like, hey, this home doesn't fit our needs. That's why we wanted to sell. Well, then they go ahead. They put the house back on the market. And this time they actually listen to what the comps say. They put the house up for $975,000, and in 2 weekends the home goes under contract and sells for $10,000 over list price. Now, a lot of people aren't taking into consideration the fact that that home will now account for 5 listings. In that scenario, it could be 5 listings. It could be 3 cancellations, 1 expired, and 1 sold. So altogether, it's 4 delistings. And there's no way to track, and nobody has told me a way to track that kind of data in the MLS. So the real question at the end of the day isn't listings are up, it's how many times is the same listing counting in the data pool as a listing. Does that make, do you understand what I'm trying to say here? Like 123 Banana Street can account for 5 listings, 4 delistings, and 1 sold. And I don't think very many people are breaking the data down and looking at it that way. And that is something that's genuinely happening because more sellers understand you're going to get more traction with a better priced new listing than a reduction, and a reduction. But anyways, you let me know what you think. Do you think this is plausible? Do you think I'm just pulling this out of thin air and just using the data to support what I want?